My name is Shivambu, spokesperson for uMkhonto weSizwe Party. As you know, today we've called for a press briefing where Comrade Floyd, on behalf of the President, will be reading a speech. Let me start by welcoming you, President. Good afternoon, President, and welcome. Let me introduce the leadership, the Deputy President sitting next to the President, Dr. Floyd. The SG on the left of the President, Dr. Maseko. The DSG, Mam Numbuso. Then we have the chairperson, the deputy chairperson actually, my apologies, right at the end there, General uMkhonto. We have the TG next to him, who is uMfowethu. And then we have and then we have Floyd, who is the national organizer, Shivambu, and the head of the President's Makasela Msobe. So that's the leadership that's with us today. The chairperson unfortunately couldn't make it, but we'd like to excuse him just to highlight that as a note for his absence. Let me ask Comrade Floyd to kickstart the press briefing so we don't delay. Thank you.
Good morning, Commanders. Good morning, Comrade President, and greetings. And greetings to the national officials of uMkhonto weSizwe Party, and greetings to the membership of uMkhonto weSizwe Party, and greetings to the people of South Africa and of the African continent and all the progressive forces in the African diaspora and the entire world. So we're going to read a statement which is basically the outcomes of the National High Command meeting of uMkhonto weSizwe Party. So the electronic version of that statement will be circulated to all members of the media, and will also circulate another document that is relevant for the purposes of this statement. So uMkhonto weSizwe Party held its National High Command meeting on the 25th to the 27th of September 2024 in Johannesburg, Gauteng Province. The National High Command is the highest decision-making body in uMkhonto weSizwe Party. The meeting was opened and addressed by uMkhonto weSizwe Commander General and President Jacob Zuma, who provided sound, instructive, and clear political, ideological, and organizational guidance to the members of the National High Command and the entire organization. President Zuma presented a clear roadmap towards total liberation and emancipation of the people of South Africa. The meeting of the National High Command was a resounding success in that we adopted the following important and critical documents in the life of the organization. The National High Command adopted the Constitution, which will be published from today in the website of uMkhonto weSizwe Party. And it sets clear aims and objectives, values and principles, and establishes all the leadership structures of the organization. We will give key highlights of the Constitution in this statement and read out some of the critical components of the Constitution: the preamble, the aims and objectives, the section on membership, the section on duties and obligations of members. And of course, we'll then speak to what are the integral parts and organizations that form the uMkhonto weSizwe Party. The Constitution of uMkhonto weSizwe Party also includes the Code of Disciplinary Conduct and the minimum standards and code of conduct for all public representatives. The meeting of the National High Command also adopted a framework on the absorption of policy and research staff members, and a broad framework on how policies of uMkhonto weSizwe will be organically generated towards a policy conference. The policy development process is grounded on the people's mandate and the adopted constitution of uMkhonto weSizwe. The key emphasis is that our policies are aimed at total liberation and freedom for our people. The policies of uMkhonto weSizwe seek to realize the broad-based and total liberation of our people from political, economic, social, spatial, cultural, and knowledge or ideological apartheid and all other forms of oppression and exclusion. The National High Command also deployed national officials and members of the National High Command to provinces, but also constituted committees that are going to support the High Command in fulfilling its responsibilities and obligations. In terms of the deployments to provinces, the Commandant General and President is deployed to the province of KwaZulu-Natal. The Deputy President, Dr. John Floyd, is deployed to the province of the Western Cape. The Secretary General, Dr. Sfiso Maseko, is deployed to the provinces of the Free State and the Northern Cape. The Deputy Secretary General, Nombuzo Mkhize, is deployed to Mpumalanga province. The National Organizer is deployed to Gauteng province. The National Chairperson, Nkosinathi Hleko, is deployed to the Northwest province. The National Deputy Chairperson, Wilson Mukocho Sibilwane, is deployed to the province of the Eastern Cape. The Treasurer General, Menzima Gubane, is deployed to the province of Limpopo. All other members of the National High Command are deployed to different provinces to do work of the organization. And the Secretary General has communicated to all the lower structures on who is deployed to their province and what will be expected from them. We direct that all structures of the organization at all levels must give maximum respect to the National High Command deployees, because we are assured that the national leaders will give maximum respect to all the lower structures. The President and national officials will appoint additional members to the National High Command to guarantee gender parity, geographic spread, and generational mix principles in the collective, which in the National High Command will not exceed 45 additional members. The President will over the next few weeks, start the process of appointing and announcing the provincial conveners and coordinators who will be leaders of provinces on behalf of the organization. And the national officials and the National High Command will also appoint the provincial, regional, and sub-regional detachments. The National High Command also constituted the following committees: the National Disciplinary Committee, the Communications Committee, the Safety and Security Committee, the Economic Transformation Committee, the Social Transformation Committee, the International Relations Committee, and the Governance Committee, and also the Finance Committee. The National Disciplinary Committee is going to be presided by Dr. John Floyd, the Deputy President of the organization. It will also include Dr. Ndiboniswani Tufzumba, General Nompumelelo Daisy Chilwano, Bongani Baloyi, Dinah Mutawa, and then 5 external members who are not members of the National High Command, but are members of uMkhonto weSizwe Party. The constitution of uMkhonto weSizwe Party, which is going to be released and published today, instructs and empowers the national officials to appoint a national prosecutor who will be responsible for internal prosecutions on behalf of the organization. The meeting of the national officials that took place on the 8th of October 2024 in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal, resolved to appoint Prince Kitzing Mukotedi as the national prosecutor, and is empowered as per the Code of Conduct to recommend an appointment of 7 other members who are going to assist in the internal disciplinary matters. The National Disciplinary Committee of Appeals of uMkhonto weSizwe will be the top 8 officials minus the Deputy President and the Secretary General, because they get involved in the prosecutorial and the adjudication process of internal discipline. The Communications Committee of uMkhonto weSizwe Party is chaired and convened by Dr. Tatim Tanti and constituted of Commander Mweti Bila, weSizwe Makhanya, Mabato Mukauze, Nolutando Shozi, Lungele Matunguzi, and Tlamulo Ndlela. The Safety and Security Committee is convened and chaired by the National Chairperson, Nkosinathi Hleko. It's comprised of Sibusiso Kulu, Julius Nsingwane, Sindim Tembu, Fanuel Manana, Ndumiso Matlala, and Dynamo Down. The Economic Transformation Committee is convened by the national organizer and is comprised of Commanders Richard Sileke, Brian Mulif, Siyabonga Gama, Lucky Montana, Mweti Bila, Adil Nchabelin, and Tshepo Mahlangu. The Social Transformation Subcommittee is convened by the Secretary General, Dr. Sfiso Masego. It is comprised also of Jabulani Zimande, Papi Tau, Mandla Sidu, Ndiboniswani Tijumba, Muzi Ntingila, Pingi Vilagaza. The International Relations Committee is chaired by the head of the presidency, Makasela Mzobo. It's comprised also of Kate Mabizela, Dr. Skumbuzo Kize, Duduzile Zuma, Andile Tam, Wesley Douglas. The Governance Committee of uMkhonto weSizwe Party is convened by the party leader in Parliament, the Deputy President, Dr. John Klope. It's comprised also of Irene Luvile Namakluli, Mabato Mukauze, Mzwanele Mani, Leon Mbajwa, Bongani Balui, Zibulwani Ligege, and Abraham Moye. The Finance Committee is convened and chaired by the Treasurer General, Menzima Gubani. It's comprised of Sibusiso Tulu, Nolutando Shozi, Nomusa Mpojane, Richard Sileke, and then Prince Mokotedi. The offices of the uMkhonto weSizwe Party, the national officials and the secretariat are in the process of finalizing the physical offices of the organization and will establish the office before the end of November 2024. The head office of uMkhonto weSizwe Party will have 2 wings, one in Johannesburg in Gauteng province and one in Durban in KwaZulu-Natal province. We'll also establish offices in all the 9 provinces and all the 54 regions of South Africa to increase, harness, and enhance the accessibility of our organization to ordinary members. The membership forms of the organization are accessible from our website, and anyone who wants to join can make the application via the website. And all the data that is going to be provided will be protected and not published publicly. That the MKP public representatives, which are the members of provincial legislatures and members of parliament, will be establishing constituency offices in all corners of South Africa so as to make sure that they are accessible and represent our people effectively and efficiently. We're an organization of the people and will always be on the ground with the people. The National High Command takes note that there are several parallel structures and leadership formations at all levels of the organization. Such will come to an absolute end once the leadership has been announced at all levels. We will not tolerate insubordination and mutiny, and will isolate elements that seek to destabilize our movement. We call on all members of uMkhonto weSizwe Party who join first to avoid and stay away from the demons of gatekeeping and factionalism. There will be several members and leaders who will join uMkhonto weSizwe Party and will be assigned leadership responsibilities at all levels. Those who joined first should welcome new members and must not close the gate and feel entitled to leadership responsibilities. We are still at formative stages and we should welcome and embrace all people who join uMkhonto weSizwe Party. We command all structures to abide by the decisions of upper structures at any given moment. We are a unitary organization guided, amongst other things, by the principle of democratic centralism. Now, we did say at the beginning that we are going to take members of the media and the membership of uMkhonto weSizwe through the critical components of the constitution of uMkhonto weSizwe party. Can I take off my cap so that we're able to read that clearly? Now, we're going to circulate the hard copies for those of you who are here, but also will circulate the electronic version. So I'm going to go briefly now through the preamble of the constitution of uMkhonto weSizwe party. It reads as follows, that we, the indigenous people of the African continent, and all people of African ancestry all over the world share the common scars of slavery, colonization, and colonialism, which dispossessed us of our land, natural and economic resources, dignity, heritage, culture, languages, and identity. Since the beginning of slavery and colonialism, all people of African ancestry continue to be on the margins of mainstream economic and social participation and relevance. In South Africa, the black majority and indigenous people were subjected to centuries of colonialism and apartheid, which was manifested through a symbiotic combination of political, economic, social, spatial, cultural, and knowledge or ideological apartheid and oppression. The symbiotic and mutual reincarnation of these forms of apartheid and oppression constitute the core of why the black majority and indigenous people have and continue to be subjected to colonialism and apartheid, oppression, and exclusion. The period and era of the struggle against colonialism and apartheid have revealed that at the center of the liberation struggle has to be the aim for total liberation and freedom from oppression and exploitation. The struggle against apartheid and colonialism is not linear and always encounters setbacks and counter-revolutionary moments and episodes which must be resisted and combated through revolutionary vigilance, fortitude, and resilience. Political apartheid and oppression happened through the conquest, subjugation, oppression, and exclusion of black and indigenous people in the political life of South Africa, where the oppressed were not allowed to vote and be voted for. Economic apartheid and oppression happened through white minority capitalist oppression, where racism was used as an instrument of capitalist super-exploitation. And this constituted the backbone of colonialism and apartheid. Social apartheid and oppression happened through systematic and systemic racism, which positioned black people as an inferior race, not permitted to gain the same privileges as white people, or permitted to express their full cultural and traditional identity and existence as a people. Spatial apartheid and oppression happened through land dispossession and the relegation of the black majority into less qualitative and the least productive land and spaces of South Africa's surface. Cultural apartheid and oppression happened through the distortion, demarcation, and attempted obliteration of black people's cultural systems, including systems of traditional leadership, medicines, and custom, as well as undermining of indigenous languages, norms, and value systems such as uMkhonto and collectivism. Ideological or knowledge apartheid and oppression happened through the degradation of African knowledge systems, religions, and the imposition of colonial-based education system. While overt political apartheid was ended through the first inclusive elections in 1994 in South Africa, there still exist very strong and visible components of economic, social, spatial, and ideological knowledge apartheid and oppression. The system of colonialism and apartheid did not end in 1994, but took a different form and shape. Attempts to reverse the total impact and consequences of apartheid continue to be suppressed, bastardized, and criminalized by the white racists in partnership with black collaborators, all under the direct support of the imperialist and racist global order and its sponsored media. as with the leaflet announcing the formation of uMkhonto weSizwe in December 16, 1961, after the banning and legalization of the liberation movements by the white minority racist apartheid regime, the announcement statement made by President Jacob Zuma on the 16th of December 2023 is signaled our refusal to surrender to the struggle against neocolonialism apartheid. The statement of President Zuma on the 16th of December 2023 signals our refusal to surrender in the struggle against neocolonialism and apartheid. South Africa is currently still under neocolonial and apartheid rule, which excludes the black majority and indigenous people from any meaningful economic participation and benefit. South Africa is still defined by strong and continued presence of economic, social, spatial, cultural, and knowledge ideological apartheid and oppression. The statement of President Jacob Zuma on the 16th of December 2023 represents a clarion call that the struggle continues, and the current phase of struggle requires unity in action of all the oppressed masses of our people. The statement of President Zuma on the 16th of December 2023 is a call to action that will still lead to fight for true and real freedom and emancipation. Above all, the statement of President Zuma is a cry for the unity of the progressive forces which represents the oppressed. The statement represents the foundational contemporary reason why uMkhonto weSizwe party exists. Every cadre of uMkhonto weSizwe must read and internalize it. It must be conceptualized as a living document in analyzing the current conjuncture and phase in the struggle and fight for radical economic transformation and economic freedom. uMkhonto weSizwe party exists to realize the broad-based and total liberation of our people from political, economic, social, spatial, cultural, and knowledge or ideological apartheid and all other forms of oppression and exclusion. Total freedom, total political freedom means that as a people of South Africa and the African continent, we must be able to establish our own political institutions and take our own political decisions without supervision from the white former colonizers and the imperialist global West. Total economic freedom and emancipation means that the people of South Africa and Africa should be able to own, control, and meaningfully benefit from the economic resources systems and determine our destiny without neo-colonial and neo-apartheid interference and racist supervision. Total social freedom means that all forms of racism must come to an end and there must be a full integration of all the people who live and stay in South Africa. Total spatial freedom means that the whole of South Africa must be fully integrated and land must be shared equitably amongst the people of South Africa. There must be little distinction between urban and rural, and there must be no distinction between townships and affluent suburbs. Total cultural freedom means that whilst embracing the values of a democratic society, we should aggressively reassert our indigenous cultural heritage and systems. Total knowledge and ideological freedom means that we should regain full control of our knowledge systems in all forms of organized knowledge and decolonize educational systems and finance. Decolonization must lie at the ideological center of the new struggle for the total liberation of our country, the continent, and the world. The white colonial settlers defeated and subjugated the black majority of Africans in South Africa because the resistance and struggle against colonialism was fought by small groups of indigenous leaders and clans. In their journey of colonial conquest and subjugation, the white colonial settlers never encountered black people as a unified opposition against colonialism. With the liberation movement attempted to unite the forces of resistance from 1912 onwards, the period we are in has stratified and continues to divide black political resistance to neo-colonialism. uMkhonto weSizwe party is therefore a political movement that seeks to unite all the anti-colonial, anti-apartheid, and anti-imperialist progressive forces to continue and to complete the unfinished fight for total liberation and freedom. uMkhonto weSizwe party believes that now is the time that we unite all the progressive forces, particularly those who are not projects of and instruments of continued white domination and oppression. uMkhonto weSizwe Party unites the ideological strengths of freedom fighters who associate the wars of resistance against colonialism and apartheid, a radical and militant interpretation and application of the Freedom Charter, Pan-Africanism, Black consciousness, and similar philosophies. We believe that the phase of the revolution we are currently in calls for total unity and unification of the progressive forces. uMkhonto weSizwe Party stands totally and fundamentally opposed to collaboration with colonial, neo-colonial forces and their descendants who still uphold and defend colonial intentions and aspirations. We acknowledge that the democratic breakthrough relegated African customs, traditions, and systems of governance, whilst other democratic, socialist, and progressive programs all over the world embrace democracy, socialism, and progressive change, aim at retaining and protecting their cultural heritage, customs, traditions, and recognition of traditional leadership. uMkhonto weSizwe Party is a total liberation progressive movement fighting for total political, economic, social, spatial, cultural, and knowledge or ideological freedom and emancipation. The core value of our struggle is the unity of all the progressive forces and demonstrable moral excellence and capacity of those who will be deployed to play different roles in the state and other institutions. uMkhonto weSizwe Party is opposed to colonialism, neo-colonialism, neoliberalism, racism, sexism, and all unjust laws, systems and practices that seek to demonize Black people and Africans in South Africa and the entire world. uMkhonto weSizwe Party is founded on the fundamental philosophy that the greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressed is their unity in action. uMkhonto weSizwe Party is a revolutionary political movement that is founded on the principles of progressive internationalism, Pan-Africanism, anti-colonialism, anti-racism, and the commitment to redress the legacy of apartheid and colonialism. The MKP is an organic movement that is fighting for the total emancipation of the people of South Africa and the entire African continent, and respects the role of African traditional and royal leadership. Part of the immediate programs is the attainment of the aspirations of the Freedom Charter and of uMkhonto weSizwe Party's People's Mandate, and the transfer of the ownership of the land and natural resources into the hands of the people as a whole. uMkhonto weSizwe Party draws direct inspiration from the 1961 generation of uMkhonto weSizwe, which say, "We are working in the best interest of the people of this country, black, brown, and white, whose future happiness and well-being cannot be attained without overthrow of the nationalist government, the abolition of white supremacy, and the winning of liberty, democracy, and full national rights, and equality for all the people of this country." We appeal for the support and encouragement of all those South Africans who seek the happiness and freedom of the people of this country, Africa, my people. To this extent, to the extent that today the nationalist government has been replaced by the same racist and exploitative forces and their black collaborators, there is no big difference between the situation in 1969 and the present conjuncture. In the words of President Zuma, the only major difference is that the bullet must be replaced by the ballot as our primary weapon. The uMkhonto weSizwe Party is a symbol of our refusal to be subdivided and suppressed into small and viable formations that carry no capacity to fight for true and total freedom. Our different formations must never be regarded as ends in themselves. We must develop the ability to differentiate between tactics and strategy. Leaders and organizations will come and go, but the revolution must always remain in place. Although some little progress was made due to partial political freedom since 1994, real and fundamental political, economic, spatial, cultural, and knowledge, freedom, and emancipation have not been fully realized. The hallmarks of colonialism and apartheid are still intact, and demonstrated by landlessness of the majority, no economic power, racism and racial segregation, cultural subjugation, and abomination of the indigenous people, the dominance of external knowledge system and content. We, as uMkhonto weSizwe Party, will unite all the progressive forces to fight for true and total emancipation, for the freedom, for this total freedom. We shall fight side by side throughout our lives until we have won our total liberty and emancipation for all our people. Africa, my goal. So that is the preamble of the Constitution of uMkhonto weSizwe Party. And we'll just skip through the objectives of what does the organization seek to achieve in terms of the Constitution. Objective number 1 is to unite all the anti-colonial, anti-imperialist, and anti-racist progressive forces in South Africa to fight for total political, economic, social, spatial, cultural, and knowledge freedom and emancipation. Number 2 is to tirelessly fight for the return of all of South African natural and economic resources to the ownership, control, and benefit for all the people as a whole. Number 3 is to mobilize, educate, agitate, conscientize the people of South Africa behind the mission and vision for total economic emancipation, radical economic transformation, and economic freedom. Number 4 is to reclaim all the land and natural resources that were forcefully and violently taken from indigenous people and redistribute it to the people equitably through the instrumentality of democratic state. Number 5 is to introduce parliamentary sovereignty and power in a manner that will represent the interests and aspirations of the people. Number 6 is to democratically and decisively take over political power in South Africa, which will be used as an instrument for total freedom and emancipation. Number 7 is to take over economic power and pursue economic expansion through purposeful state-led industrialization. Number 6 is to develop and grow the productive forces of the economy in a manner that will guarantee full employment and create conditions for common and full prosperity for all the people of South Africa. Number 9 is to create full employment for all the people who need quality and sustainable jobs. Is to fight, number 10, for the interest, rights and aspirations of all workers, including the rights to unionize, to work in safe and protected workplaces, and the right to earn a living wage. Number 11 is to fight poverty and reduce inequalities in South Africa. Is to fight crime and eliminate all forms of criminality in all spheres and sectors of society as number 12. Number 13 is to assemble the best qualified and most skilled relevant people to provide responsive and responsible government which will benefit all the people of South Africa and maintain mutually beneficial economic, political, and social relationships with people of the African continent and the world. Number 14 is to promote intellectual work amongst black people, which will innovate, invent, and produce new ideas and solutions to the people as a whole, and in a manner that is organically connected to indigenous knowledge systems and appreciation of the progress made in other parts of the world. Number 15 is to fight for and introduce free, quality, and decolonized education for all from elementary school until postgraduate level. Number 16 is to elevate and officially recognize the role of royal, indigenous, and traditional leadership in South Africa's democratic system through giving clearly defined legislative and oversight powers to the National House of Traditional Leaders. Number 17 is to fight, champion, and advocate for the interests and aspirations of professionals, particularly those historically excluded from main participation through apartheid and colonialism. Number 18 is to fight, champion, and for the interests and aspirations of all military veterans and ex-combatants. Number 19 is to defend, promote, and protect all forms of spiritual and religious expressions, freedom, and association.
Number 20 is to fight for, promote, and advocate for gender equality in all MKP structures and all spheres of society. Number 21 is to fight all forms and manifestations of gender-based violence and crime against children and people with disabilities. Number 22 is to fight for the cultural and knowledge, ideological relevance and hegemony of all South African cultural and knowledge systems and solutions. Number 23 is to fight for the mainstreaming of sound, traditional, and indigenous healing systems and medicine in a manner that will collaborate with and enhance scientifically proven solutions. Number 24 is to raise the level of political consciousness amongst all people of South Africa and thoroughly engage in the battle of ideas within our country, our continent, and the world. Number 25 is to fight racism wherever it is manifested. Number 26 is to resist any form of collaboration with the racist minority agenda and program. Number 27 is to decolonize South Africa's knowledge systems and laws in a manner that will embrace and uphold decolonized laws and systems against colonial and neo-colonial laws such as the Roman Dutch law and the English law and doctrine which lie at the root of the present so-called common law. Number 28 is to build sound and fair relationships between the people of South Africa and the entire African continent in a manner and direction that seeks to achieve gradual integration towards common prosperity, freedom, and development. Number 29 is to build sound and fair relationships between the people of South Africa and the global South in a manner and direction that seeks to achieve common prosperity and freedom. The last objective is to contribute towards the progressive shift in the global balance of forces by strengthening institutions of the global South like BRICS Plus and all its alliances. Now, in terms of membership of uMkhonto weSizwe Party, it's open to all South Africans who are registered to vote and are above the age of 16. And membership is obtained individually through signing of a membership form or through an online application, and therefore an allocation to a branch of uMkhonto weSizwe. And the membership is open to all South Africans who are opposed to colonialism, white minority racist domination and collaboration. Members of uMkhonto weSizwe Party must wholeheartedly serve the people and be ready to make any personal sacrifice and dedicate their lives to realizing the aims and objectives of the organization. Members of uMkhonto weSizwe Party shall forever owe their allegiance to ordinary members of the working people. No member of uMkhonto weSizwe shall pursue any self-enrichment, personal gain, or privilege at the expense of the people and the organization. All members of uMkhonto weSizwe who join the organization will be placed on a probation period for a period of 24 months after joining, meaning that the membership may be summarily cancelled collectively by the national officials at any point during the probation period. The cancellation of membership will be done against members whom the national officials believe have violated the organizational principles, policies, and principles, or are not aligned to the strategic objectives of the organization. The powers that are envisaged in the cancellation of the membership will always be exercised with the concurrence of the president. That the National High Command has got the right to accept or reject the membership of anyone who joins, who seeks to join uMkhonto weSizwe. And members of uMkhonto weSizwe Party are not allowed to join and participate in political activities whose aims and objectives are opposed to the objectives of uMkhonto weSizwe. And save for highly exceptional and strategic circumstances, and with the approval of national officials and the High Command, members of uMkhonto weSizwe Party are not allowed to be members of other political parties, except organizations that are in formal alliance with uMkhonto weSizwe Party. And membership of uMkhonto weSizwe Party will be 20 rand, which will be applicable for 24 months and renewable after 24 months period. And that members who join should pay directly and not be paid for on behalf of the members. And then those who join are going to sign a membership declaration, which is in the Constitution, which amongst other things says that I join uMkhonto weSizwe Party with the full knowledge that in the intervening period, I will be under probation and my membership can be cancelled if I do not move in accordance to the organization. Then the principles that are contained in the Constitution, which we are not going to read all of them, that anchor the organization. One is principle of uMkhonto. The second principle is the principle of unity in action. The third principle is the principle of Pan-Africanism, patriotism, and equality. The fourth principle is the principle of honesty and respect. The fifth principle and value of the organization is democratic centralism. The sixth principle is mandate, accountability, and reporting. The seventh principle is organic forms of public representation. The eighth principle is discipline and hard work. The ninth principle is marriageability and meritocracy. The last 10th principle is class consciousness. We will get time to all of us read through all these principles. But just want to pull up one of the key principles that the President had guided firmly on as to what should be the values of all uMkhonto weSizwe Party members. The principle of honesty and respect, that all members of uMkhonto weSizwe Party must be honest at all times and must avoid making commitments on things they cannot fulfill. They must necessarily fulfill all the commitments they make to the people. The guiding principle of all uMkhonto weSizwe members and public representatives will be what Amika Cabral says, that hide nothing from the masses of our people, tell no lies, expose lies whenever they are told, claim no easy victories. And the emphasis is that the respect demands that all members of uMkhonto weSizwe Party must respectfully raise their political views in and outside the organization and must engage even political opponents with robustness, but through respect. No member of uMkhonto weSizwe Party will be allowed to throw insults at anyone, including political opponents, even in instances where they have been insulted or provoked by the opponents. It's one of the principles that is going to guide how the organization is, but that is substantiated in the Constitution. And in terms of the structures and organizational structures of uMkhonto weSizwe Party, we are led by the President, who is the Commander General, and the President of the organization. And then there will be a structure called Royal House, which is comprised of the kings and queens, the recognized kings and queens, which will be an advisory structure which will interface with the organization through the President and Commander General. And then underneath that, we're going to have a council of traditional and religious leaders. A council of traditional, indigenous, and religious leaders who are going to give constant counsel to the organization in terms of what are the key issues. Whenever manifestos and policy positions are adopted, the leadership collective will be obliged to go and give a report to people who lead the recognized constituencies, which are religious leaders and traditional leaders from all corners of South Africa, representing all cultural denominations and expressions in South Africa. And underneath that, we're going to have the national officials, which is the top 8 of President, Deputy President, Secretary General, Deputy Secretary General, National Chairperson, Deputy National Chairperson, Treasurer General, and National Organizer.
And then we're going to have the National High Command, which is the highest decision-making body. So it's an equivalent of a National Executive Committee or a Central Command team in other organizations. It's the highest decision-making body, the National High Command, which takes decisions. That is the structure that took the final decision on the Constitution. And out of that, we're then going to have provincial detachments. Provincial detachments will be the ones that are responsible for coordination and work of the organization at provincial level, appointed by the national structures. Underneath that, we're going to have regional detachments. Regional detachments are demarcated as the districts, the 54 districts or metropolitan districts, which are 8 in South Africa currently. So it's 54 regional detachments which are going to be leading the structures. And we must highlight that the composition of the provincial detachments will be provincial convener, provincial deputy convener, coordinator, deputy coordinator, organizer, deputy organizer, fundraiser, and deputy fundraiser. That will be the same in terms of regions. Underneath regions will be the sub-regional detachments, which are going to be demarcated as the local municipalities in terms of the district municipalities. In terms of metropolitan municipalities, it will be as per the zones in that particular metropolitan municipalities. And underneath that will be one detachment. Underneath one detachment will be voting districts detachments. The voting district detachments are going to need VD-based branches of the uMkhonto weSizwe Party. So the branches of uMkhonto weSizwe are going to be VD-based. We are fully aware that in South Africa we've got 23,291 voting districts. And we are going to launch 23,291 branches of uMkhonto weSizwe, which are going to be constituted at VD level for efficiency and impact of work, because one-based branches, of course, are functional in certain circumstances, but they are not easy to convene in most of the rural areas and communities. So the branches of uMkhonto weSizwe are going to be VD-based. And for purposes of local government elections, all the VDs will gather to then select who will be the candidate and what is the common program for the total victory in terms of elections. In the immediate program, an activity that is going to be happening is that the leadership is going to be appointing the leadership of provinces, of regions, and no one at provincial level has got the power to establish any regional structure. That is the responsibility of the national leadership. And once that leadership has been appointed, there is no one who is going to identify themselves as leaders of uMkhonto weSizwe in the province, except those that have been appointed in a letter that would have been signed by the Secretary General. So that is the principle that is going to obtain. The fraternal organizations that exist within uMkhonto weSizwe Party, one is uMkhonto weSizwe Women's League. It is established by the Constitution, which is comprised of all women in uMkhonto weSizwe above the age of 16 and who are registered to vote, are going to organize and led at the national level by the National Women's Detachment. And then we have provincial structures, regional structures, ward structures, city structures. We're also going to establish the uMkhonto weSizwe Youth League, which will be joined and led by young people between the ages of 13 years old and 30. So between the ages of 13 and 30 years, that is uMkhonto weSizwe Youth League. And it organizes at all levels, except in institutions of higher learning. So uMkhonto weSizwe Youth League will organize young people in communities, except in institutions. The uMkhonto weSizwe Youth League will not launch campus-based branches. We're then going to have uMkhonto weSizwe Students Movement as a separate, relatively autonomous organization, which is going to launch branches of uMkhonto weSizwe Students Movement in all TVET colleges, universities of technology, and universities, and will be relatively autonomous to deal with matters that relate to students on a constant basis. And the highlight is that the leadership of uMkhonto weSizwe students movement must not be above the age of 18. So those who think that they are going to join at the age of 40, wanting to lead uMkhonto weSizwe student movement, they won't be able to smuggle themselves. It's mostly going to be the young students who are going to be leading themselves in terms of what will be expected. So the Constitution was adopted by the National High Command, and through observation of just the practice of the organization and the evolving time and adaptability of the circumstances and conditions, when there are changes that are going to be made, the National High Command will again need to say that we need to add the following sections to then deal with those aspects. And the president is the leader of the organization, and he has the powers to determine and convene consultative and policy conferences in instances where he thinks there's something important that will need organic direction from the leadership. He also has the power to decree practices and decisions that go contrary to the main objectives of the organization. Ladies and gentlemen, the people of South Africa, the Constitution of uMkhonto weSizwe Party. Thank you very much.